Hey guys, welcome to the Yellowbox Podcast. I'm Kevin Daughtry, and I'm here with my good friends Nick and Tristan, who are part of the Yellowbox team. We've been on a hiatus as a podcast for a bit. A few things happened. The world kind of went through some stuff, and creatively as an organization, we had to pivot as well. And so we're glad to be back, and we're excited to talk about some new content with you. And so, Nick, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. I'm excited for season 3 of Yellowbox Podcast. I was just looking through our podcast, and the last time that we released an episode was March 18th, 2020. The last time you heard from us on a podcast. So
there's some stuff that happened around that time that really kind of
like we shut it down.
St. Patrick's Day.
we
St. Patrick's Day. That's what we're talking about, Tristan. We're talking about St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day happened and it was over. No, it's been an incredible couple years, and so we just figured we'd take a moment just to kind of reintroduce ourselves, talk about who we are, and maybe a little bit about how we have evolved as an organization. But also, I'm sure that if you're listening to this and you're on staff at a church or pastoring in some way, or if you're a creative, that you've experienced the pause of COVID, but then the pivot and everything else that came along, not just with COVID, but anything else that may or may not have divided the local church or caused division in the local church in the last couple of years, and dealing with all of those things. And so, Kevin, I have this question for you. Why don't you talk a little bit about COVID happening 2020? What was something that we did as an organization in the pivot to kind of come alongside churches? Because that's something we're passionate about, coming alongside churches to kind of help them pivot in that COVID season.
Yeah, man, it hit fast and furious with us, just like it did everybody else. But we were at the time centralized. We had a physical location, which we have since decentralized and moved those resources to other team members and expanding our operation. But at the time, we really thought culturally and operationally that a location was what you needed. So we had a studio. It was about 4,800 square feet, and things started getting crazy. People started getting shut down. They couldn't meet in their spaces anymore, all of that. And so we literally opened up our studio and said, hey, if you can afford to pay for recording like services online, because everybody had to go online. Everybody had to pivot.
Yep.
So people had been waiting for years to do it, decided obviously didn't have a choice. Now they got to do it.
Yeah.
And so we're pretty much every day on the phone with somebody, walking through like how to do it wherever they're at, wherever they were across the United States. But if they happen to be in the Houston area, we opened up our studio and said, if you can, afford to do this, that'd be awesome. If you can't, come anyway. And other churches kind of helped sponsor, churches that didn't have the budget, and it just kind of became a really cool thing. And but it was like, I think over, we racked up easily 300 hours of editing windows over the course of a few weeks. It was, I think for about a 7-week period, like I know I didn't sleep on Saturday nights. Like I was uploading all these episodes to Facebook and YouTube premieres. Right. And,
I was doing YouTube premieres before COVID anyways.
Yeah. It was nuts. And so, so we were recording, multiple services at a time, multiple cameras, edit it all down. We got, it's fun to get creative and do stuff out in the field somewhere and just, all that jazz. But really, it was chaos. It was utter chaos. Like our studio literally just there was mic cables everywhere, mic stands, instruments everywhere, lights everywhere, gaff tape rolls that had been used up. Just like, it looked kind of like a zombie apocalypse. I remember driving into Houston because I live in Pearland. I live south of Houston. So I remember driving into Houston. Normally takes probably 30, 40 minutes. It would take like 15 minutes. There was no cars out, nothing.
No traffic.
It was like, literally, I remember driving in. I'm like, this is The Walking Dead. Like, this is that episode where Rick is on a horse, but I'm in a car driving like into Atlanta. And you just see like, just nothing. It's like just dead. And so it was definitely surreal in many ways. And I feel like, it was a testing ground for us. So we just pivoted really hard as an organization. We were like, man, essentially if if we're going to make it through the season, we got to sow seeds.
Yeah.
We got to sow some seeds, because it's going to be really hard for some of our clients to make it.
Yep.
Some of these clients that have contracts with us where they're paying for services, and that's helping us pay our team, like, they may not make it. Like, I'm saying, everybody's in the same boat at this place. Everybody's just unsure of what the future holds.
Man.
And so, so then our lease was up in August of 2020. So we decided to reinvest that into a growing team. And so, never looked back. It's been different to build culture remotely and all that stuff. But as far as the chaos of the video season, I think it kickstarted a whole new chapter for our video side of things. Wouldn't you say, Tristan?
Yeah, like I had said earlier, I came on. I've kind of been with Yellowbox for a while, but I really came on in a larger capacity in early mid 2020, about May, I think. Found out that Kevin, was no longer did sleep, and so I jumped in, and we did that for like months. For a lot of months, we had multiple edits. I think I didn't have a whole lot of edits, but I had enough to keep me occupied for a Saturday night into an early Sunday morning. And we would film a lot of these churches, maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday, and then we would go in and be editing all day Friday, all day Saturday, what we could. Oftentimes we would get a worship mix from the worship pastor, sometime Friday night or Saturday morning, and so we just throw it all together, and did that for months, and it's still going. That's another thing, like, it's still going. There's still clients that they send stuff for us to edit like that, and it's really just I think a turning point in what the video side of Yellowbox looked like.
We also launched a Spanish overdub translation service for some clients that basically lost their Spanish leadership at their church. And so that was a Thursday night recording from the senior pastor and whatever he was going to preach on Sunday. We had between Thursday and Saturday to transcribe it, translate it, time it, overdub it. Like, that meant, like, we had to build a whole team of different talent for, if you have multiple people on stage.
Wow.
A man and a woman, 2 different men, 2 different women, like, whatever the case was. Yeah. They couldn't all have the same voice. Yeah. Or it felt like old Godzilla movies. Like, we didn't want to go that route. So it was a full system we had to build for that. And that's still going. So there's a lot of stuff that came out of it that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That God used.
I love that. I love hearing that. For me, I think a lot about people who ramped up their online presence, their streaming presence, and maybe invested in that season, and then have elected to continue along that way. I mean, I know a church in town where I live that they just live streamed from like a stationary camera on Sunday previously, and then they started filming like a living room session on Wednesday night. Pastor would do the message, and then they'd have living room worship, and it was mixed and mastered and put together. And they've just continued, and the excellence level is like so much higher than what they previously had, and they just keep that rhythm. They keep that rhythm, and that whole online experience is an entirely new on ramp for people to experience their church. And as you were talking to, I was thinking a lot about, especially in Houston, how beautiful it was to see so many churches helping other churches. So churches saying, hey, you can come and use our venue, or hey, we have some cameras you can use, or hey, some of our worship team will come here this way or that way. Like, I loved seeing the church be the church and be so kingdom-minded that they were willing to equip and empower other churches to get what they need in the season of COVID and beyond. And so for us as Yellowbox, it was amazing to have kind of a front row seat to that, to see churches helping churches in the midst of a lot of people just kind of scrambling and being like, man, we aren't resourced for this, or we don't know how we're going to make it happen. And so that did my heart good. If there was something that, like, what good came of COVID? I think, COVID's like a black light, right? A lot of what it was for me, I saw, it's like it revealed and accelerated whoever you were, or whatever, however your organization was running before. It just like put the pressure on and see what comes out. And so, so anyways, yeah, I'm kind of rambling at this point, but it was beautiful.
No, I mean, I think that brings up an interesting point. I mean, I think that the lesson to learn about it was like, man, if you didn't rethink what you thought was sacred in your services before, like during COVID, you kind of missed the only thing that would have come out of it was good. Like was the challenging your praxis, like what is sacred, what is not. And I'm not necessarily talking about theological. I'm just talking like when it comes to what mattered most, like,
Yeah.
okay, it's great. It's great. Very important for people to feel welcomed as soon as they get out of the car and walk in, you know, so you got a whole team of people with signs, and that's great. That didn't happen during COVID, right? So some of the things you could have learned during COVID, right, to make service more engaging, like you established what was more sacred. What was more sacred was being able to still be there for people in the community, even outside of a Sunday morning, right? Like there was a lot of that happened during COVID.
Yeah.
That was, man, I can't get out. My mom's sick. I'm sick. So-and-so's sick. Like all the stuff that happened that made the church had nothing to do with Sunday morning.
Yeah.
It still was interesting though, how much of our input and like thought processes still went into Sunday in the middle of the world literally falling apart. Like we were still just thinking it's Sunday, like Sunday's coming, you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So talk a little bit about like, as a creative, and I've been on staff at churches and served in churches, and we get so focused in on our stuff and our Sunday and our programming. And when COVID happened, it's like a lot of that went out of the window. Like what are we talking about? We're like all the messages are changing in real time. Well, what do people need in the moment? From a creative perspective, though, I found myself just. And I'm this way naturally, but like, what are other churches doing? What are other creatives doing? How is the creative world responding to this crisis? And how can we learn from each other? I feel like it caused us all to take a step back and to do that, to kind of take a survey of the land, like both of like in the church world and even beyond, but like creatively, what did it mean? I mean, Zoom, right? An app like Zoom, like we were in a Zoom small group with couples from all over the country. And we did an entire small group season with some new friends. Like there was a couple in Louisiana, Mississippi, up in Pittsburgh, and we were in Oklahoma. And we did a marriage small group. And I was like, didn't know this was possible. This never happened before COVID. But creatively speaking, was there anything that you guys noticed with creatives kind of connecting and being like, how are you guys pivoting?
Yeah, I mean, I think that creatives, there was more community that was created intentionally, like using tools like GroupMe or Slack or, even online. I mean, Instagram, like there was people just connecting to encourage each other how you do this, because there were so many people that had to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, there was this thing we call collectively the Great Resignation, which kind of hit, a full 12 months after the peak of this chaos of the season. And of course it would hit because, people were burned out. Yeah. But in the middle of that journey, people were connecting and sharing resources like never before. Like there was no trade secret in the middle of COVID. You figure this out, I'll share it with you, man. I got this thing that I need. You have this thing that you need. Let's share resources. And it didn't matter. Everybody was doing whatever they had to do to survive. And churches were opening up their doors to each other. Like it was pretty cool to see like the mentality of what a kingdom's supposed to look like kind of come together instead of our individual brands. Like that didn't really matter anymore at the moment. It was like, I don't care.
Oh, good. Like
if this fully helps me grow my organization, I felt a duty to do this, to really jump in and help it. I think that one of the things that we would say about COVID pretty often to church leaders was like, this will end, like this will come to an end at some point, and we won't have to wear masks on planes anymore, like that kind of stuff, which we're not having to wear masks right now, so that's great. But for a season there, we flew a lot during COVID, and that was just normal. You just got used to it. But all those things we kept telling pastors, like, this is going to come to an end, and when it does, what is your game plan to continue what you've built? you've put a lot of resources into your online audience. Like, man, creatives held down the fort for the local church during COVID. What's your plan for after COVID? Like, what's your plan to keep this momentum and importance going?
Yeah.
If you want to like make the, Old Testament connection to like artisans, like the call for artisans, we need to build the temple. We need the best art. Like that's pretty much the creative importance that was placed on creatives during the pandemic. And so my concern all along was that we're going to get back to the ebb and flow of how things were, and that importance will be removed, and that attention will be removed, and those resources to do this well will be removed. And so some people have gone back and some people haven't. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're a church leader and you're like, man, did I do that? You might not have done it intentionally, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But look back and go, okay, how can we bring some importance back to this? Because we built an audience online.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I have done fad diets before, like Atkins or like low carb or keto. Like we all go on that, right? And oh my gosh, who's calling me? This is the worst. I have gone on like low carb diets, and then I begin to add the carbs back. And the idea is that you go on low carb and you don't go back into junk food, right? You don't go back into just, I'm going to eat cake and bread and all the carbs. You don't want to add all the carbs back. But to me, like if COVID was a fad and we changed creatively how we operate, we have to be careful about, okay, moving forward, like what is our digital lifestyle that we want to live? Like what is our online presence? And like Growth Track is a perfect example of that. Like, okay, we used to only do Growth Track in person. Now we're doing it on Zoom, for some of our online audience and Fast Track. So like people who have kept some of these things as part of their, it's no longer a fad. It's just part of our DNA. I think it's amazing because it's beyond just fixing something that needs to be fixed. It's now part of your culture, and you're like, this is who we are now. So I think the most successful churches in reaching people moving forward are going to be ones that embrace what are the things that we did during this season that helped us really rethink, like how are we outworking the mission of the church. And what is making us most effective right now? What do people really want? Community, I think, is really, really important right now because content is everywhere, but finding community is hard. Like I can go be inspired on Instagram, both from spiritual content and with creative content. There's incredible photographers, there's incredible designers, there's incredible musicians. I can go listen to the most amazing worship ever, but when you get your tribe of people that you're doing life with and you're having community with and you're asking, man, what is God speaking to you about as a creative right now in this season? And you're able to have those conversations. I'm not having that conversation with Brandon Lake. I love Brandon Lake and I'm inspired by Brandon Lake. Brandon Lake, if you're listening, what up? But like, if what I need is my tribe of people in my community. And I think right now, the state of the church would be hungry for hope and hungry for community. While also keeping all of these other little pivots that we used in COVID top of mind.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so March 18th, 2020 was our last Yellowbox podcast that we released. And I don't think it's any coincidence that was the last one that we released for 2 years because we went straight into COVID and COVID season, and we've been so head down helping churches, getting live streams going and just pivoting. All of our print projects came to a halt, and we began to just move things into the digital spaces that we never did before. Websites became important again.
Oh, we did digital conferences. Like that was new. Like, taking over abandoned cathedrals in Detroit to do digital conferences. And like bringing big name people in and recording without air conditioning, multiple takes to get it right. Like that was the kind of stuff that's what we did. Like it was chaos. If we filmed and produced design and creative and all the online elements for capital campaigns for churches in San Francisco. Like it was just chaos. It was like going to the craziest places with the most locked down possible scenarios. Like I remember on that trip, we didn't eat a single meal inside anywhere. Every meal we were there for 3 days filming. Every meal was the back of a car on the side of the street.
Man.
Because there was you couldn't eat inside. It was like, we couldn't even go in people's houses. We did interviews like in backyards, on the beaches. Like, it was chaos, man. It was nuts.
I mean, how many like galas? I remember we were doing some like for galas and fun.
Digital galas, yeah.
And digital galas, digital fundraisers. So all of those things happened, and so our apologies because we have not released a season of the Yellowbox podcast until now. So welcome to season 3. So excited that you guys are with us. We put some of our internal things on hold, and we had to, but we feel like we're in a season now, and I think maybe the church is too, where we're coming up for air, and we're able to think and dream a little bit, and we just want to take a moment to say, creatives, we love you. Creatives, we see you. Creatives, thank you for not giving up. Thank you for not, if you're listening to my voice and you are serving the church, whether you get paid for it or not, creatively, we are so thankful for you. Don't give up. Do not grow weary in well-doing. And welcome to Yellowbox.
Tristan, what would you say you learned? What did COVID teach you?
Ooh. I feel like there's a lot of things that COVID taught me.
It taught you that a mustache is still in style.
Yeah,
it taught you that.
That was when the mustache came around. It was also just when I was able to start growing facial hair, so I just let it happen. No, COVID taught me how to, for one, like get things done. It taught me stewardship.
Yeah.
You learn about stewardship and what it means and everything, but there comes a time when you'll have to apply it. And so there were projects that, frankly, like I was unqualified to be working on my own, but I knew that there was a need. And so we got things done. It taught me how to fail sometimes. Because I look back on COVID and like that was two years ago now. I'm much further in the craft now than I was then, and I'm still fairly young in this industry, and so
you're like 12, 13.
Yeah, I'm like 12 video years old, and so I still was developing my craft, and so it taught me a lot, like technically. I was able to learn a lot about what I'm doing, how to do it better. But it taught me how to, like I said, steward things, how to make sure things get done, how to make sure I'm taken care of, like mentally and everything. And it taught me how to grind, because I think there's seasons. Like I don't think we should always be living in a grind season. But it taught me how to work in one, and it taught me how to be healthy in one, and it taught me how not to be healthy in one. I was able to learn a lot about stewarding the work that I'm doing, that I don't think I'll ever be able to unlearn. It's just there now. And obviously there's a lot more to learn, but I got to see it's just a big thing to live through a time like that.
Yeah.
And we can sit here and acknowledge all of the bad that came about from it, all of the negative sides. But it's much more encouraging to acknowledge all the good that came out of it, and all of the things that we did learn, and the opportunities that came up.
Like that was losing people was definitely,
that's rough.
That was the hard part, 100% hard part. I mean, I know I had it. I'm sure everybody here had it.
Mm-hmm.
And it
all
was like
knew somebody.
I had it twice. Yeah, I had it twice still.
I had the OG. I had that in March of that, or somewhere around that, right before we all kind of got started. I didn't know what it was.
Oh, I still never actually did get it. I got vaxxed as soon as I could. I ain't taking no chances.
Man. Yeah, I mean, even that when we were traveling, we had to. Like, I remember there was like, this was not a political issue for us at all. It was
if you're going to work, you need to take the vaccine.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and because what we were doing was communications was considered essential. And so you could still do this, like operate, there was I remember, if anybody approached us, and we got approached several times, like, what are you guys doing out and about? And we'd be like, we're filming for a project. And they're like, oh, okay. Big deal. Like, it was really weird to be considered essential, even though we're like we're not doctors. We're not on the front line.
Creatives are essential. That's it.
Oh,
creatives.
That's the name.
Creatives are essential.
Yeah.
You are essential, and it was a surprise to you. But let me just say, like, creativity on the inside of us it's implanted on the inside of us as part of our God-given DNA to be creative, and so it is essential. Creatives are essential. The need for creativity is essential. To just add on to what you guys are saying about what COVID taught me, it taught me about the ability to reimagine and to reinvent myself. So the things that I was doing before COVID and the things that I did after COVID looked different, not just because the opportunities were there, but I actually had to get there first mentally in my head. And so when I realized that, like, I'm bigger than just what I did previously, like, I'm creative, I am a creative, and I'm built to pivot. We're built for the pivot. We're made for this. We're made to adapt and to ask God, Holy Spirit, lead us in this next season and show us who we are, who we're supposed to be.
I would say what it taught me was, like we were talking about earlier, right? What mattered most, what didn't matter, what were the things that were most important, and then being able to communicate that to other people in a constructive way, because it was a very divisive season in a lot of ways. The past 2 years have been extremely divisive for, the community that we're in. And so, I mean, there were people that went to every side of that feasibly possible. It was just like watching this whole kind of thing explode. And it's normally like, people were addicted to, like, reality TV, because you wanted to see, like, so-and-so who cheated on so-and-so get called out, and then, like, they had a kid with this person, like, all the things that were, like, popular reality TV shows back in the day were all about, like, expose, all about, like, scandal. And it was like, you just sit back and you'd eat popcorn and enjoy that. But this was not that. This was like, there was no joy taken in watching things literally fall apart. Like, there was no entertainment in it. It was all like, and these are people I know.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, what happened? Like, so I think what it did was it solidified what mattered most to us as individuals and as organizations. And so if we decided in the middle of it that people mattered most to us, we were going to reorganize our organization around that. If we thought in the middle of it that politics mattered most to us, or nationalism, or, conspiracy theories, or whatever, like, that became the centralized focus of our organization. And it was devastating to watch that kind of define people and organizations left and right, like all over the space, because it was like, this was, what do you exist for? Right? Like, that's my question to people. I think that's what COVID taught people. What do you exist for? Mm-hmm. Because whatever it is, that's where your focus is going to be, and that's where your heart is going to be. That's where your energy is going to be. And there was no way to hide behind a curtain in the middle of COVID with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you were transparent.
To add to that too, like,
wow.
In the meantime of all of that happened, like you said, people went to every feasible side that you could think to go to, different churches, different organizations, and everything. And meanwhile, we were able to service all of it, and that's one thing that I find that, like, I love about the organization was our adaptability, and our flexibility with beliefs, because we all have our personal beliefs and everything among this organization, but at the same time we were able to get out there and just produce the best content possible for all of these organizations, regardless of what they believed or how they were operating, or what beliefs they were operating in. And so I think that was one thing that was really, really cool to see about our organization during COVID.
Yeah.
Let me say this real quick. To be clear to people who are listening, like, we don't all share the same political ideologies,
right,
or same convictions on that kind of stuff as a team. And I think if you're a part of an organization that does, like, ask yourself why. Ask yourself why you're surrounded by only the people who think exactly like you. I'm not talking about big things that matter on a major scale. I'm talking about small differences in ideology. Is this okay? Is this not okay? Is that, or do we accept these type of people or that type of people? Or do we vote this way? Do we believe in these kind of policies? Do we want more taxes or less taxes? Do we want free health care? Do we want to all be paying for health care? Like, which one is it? Like all those things are kind of minuscule in a difference level for an organization. But I think for us, it's been healthier because it's not they versus, it's not like they're not the other person. Like they're not the other side. I look at you and I'm like, oh, that's not them. Like them.
Right.
Over there, they're demons.
That's my team.
That's my team.
That's how you have to look at it.
They think different, but I still love them.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
That's so good. I think there's something for us, like I needed to be open-minded and be able to listen to other perspectives throughout the whole last couple of years. So COVID has taught me how to listen. COVID has taught me how to walk in humility. And with my brothers and sisters in Christ, no matter where they are on the different issues that are out there that we're all dealing with and trying to answer for, I just have a healthy respect for the fact that, like, no matter where you are, no matter what your position is, you were getting flamed in some way or another, right? You're getting flamed by somebody. And so for us, we really felt honored to be able to partner with churches across the country, both coasts and everywhere in between, that had a bunch of differing views on all of the issues, but still their mission was people, and our mission is people. And so when things get chaotic and crazy, in any season, when you enter into a chaotic season, you should always ask yourself, what is our mission? What is our why? Why are we doing this? And Yellowbox has done that. We had to ask ourselves that question and come back to the why, and then our why informed the what. When we understood again and reminded ourselves of the why and got clarity there, then the what became easy, because the what will change. But coming back to the why of our mission, COVID gave us clarity again at that level, and I'm using C's. So I hope you love.
Wow, alliteration.
I hope you love it.
He's got that rhetorical device handbook ready, baby. He's like, all right, well, I got. Let's go, baby.
My seminary peeps, what up?
Y'all going to church? We need to get some sound bits in here. So anytime Nick starts preaching, we just hit the organ. Like that's what needs to happen. That's what I always joke about. Man, he gets going. It's like, duh. But no, I think that if you don't know, if you haven't read what our tagline is or why we exist, like Yellowbox exists to develop creativity in the local church. And so what that meant during this season was very different from what it meant initially. And it's helped pave the way for us to build where we're going. And so there's a few things we're really excited to share with you. The next episode that's going to be coming out is actually going to be called Creative for More. And it's about a big campaign and a mission that we're creating to help, encourage and build up creatives in the local church. But another thing that we've been focusing heavily on, we're a creative agency. We have services, we have, everything from branding to website to social media management to video to you name it, recurring creative, we do it. But then we also have, been building up resources over the years to help encourage processes and that kind of stuff in the local church. And so there's a whole new set of that's going to be coming out as well as some really fun, products that we're going to be offering that are not just custom creative. So there's some new stuff coming out that we're excited to share with you as this thing goes along.
And I would encourage you, if you are listening to this, to take a moment to go look back through some of our previous seasons. Season 1 and Season 2 really lays out a foundation of our core DNA and our beliefs when it comes to a lot of creativity and how we approach, branding, logos, and websites and things like that. So go check it out, but then also be on the lookout for some fresh content and from some fresh inspiration from the Yellowbox team.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Yellowbox Podcast. We're back. That's right. I said it. The Yellowbox Podcast. We've been on a hiatus for 2 years. It's been a wild ride. I bet you're probably wondering why we fell off the face of the earth. But Like Nick and Kevin and Tristan said, I mean, we just had to really be boots on the ground, rallying around the local church and creatives to just help them figure this thing out. None of us knew what we were doing when the world shut down, and that was one of the most beautiful things that we all saw, was just everyone really, coming together, just becoming like the church, and helping each other. And part of figuring all that out, I was listening to Kevin talk about the resources that we had to come up with and just figure out together. Like, we started offering those Espanol Spanish translation services, and I mean, it came out of like nowhere. Like, a church needed us. Like, a church was like, we need help. We have no idea how we're going to continue services and continue getting the message out to this entire community. And at the time, the only resource that was available was me and my dad to do the Spanish translations. Like, straight up, my dad and I would record like at midnight when the rest of the house was quiet, and like we would literally like VO, voiceover, dub this pastor, and like there was a lot of arguments, guys. It was me and my dad, so like we were definitely arguing throughout the whole thing. It's like crazy time, but like we had to figure it out. Like, we did that for Yellowbox when we didn't know what to do, and then thank God we ran into another community and another group of creatives that, like, these creatives needed support and we needed support, and we came together. We got united, all to help this local church get their message out to their congregation. And like that to me is such a beautiful thing, and how far we've come from that moment 2 years ago of me and my good old dad just recording Espanol services in the living room to, I mean, we have like such an amazing resource right now, such an amazing team of people who put that together week in and week out, and it's awesome.
That was just a wacky time for us. Something else that started during that time was, I mean, social media was big before COVID, but during COVID, church social media blew up. Because, I mean, you had to have some way to tell your friends about the online services. You had to have some way to continue to reach people. And you couldn't do that in person because you couldn't leave your house. You couldn't see other people. And so social media became so big. So that's when I came on the team was during COVID. So we were able to start our social media resource, Spanish translations. What else did we start? We started
the stream sites.
Yeah, the stream sites.
So many churches. That had no idea how to stream. Yeah, I think one of the things that we do that is just so important, or one of the things that I just love about what we offer at Yellowbox is recurring creative, or just becoming an extension of your team. I think right now it's so important for churches, for creative teams, even smaller churches who don't have a whole team. It might just have one creative on the team, and then there's the rest of the lead pastors and associate pastors. Some of those churches have come to us to be not their creative team, but an extension, because what they're able to do as a church and as as a body is focus on like heart issues, or focus on the culture there, focus on the things that are really building up that community, or building up that church family, while we're able to help them with the nitty gritty. We're able to get head down and help them with whether that's strategy or the creative itself. Because sometimes, especially post-pandemic, where a lot of churches had to let staff go, and there's maybe 1 or 2 people on staff now, they are loaded with work. They're loaded with like so much to do, and like that has caused a burnout and like a high turnover like in staffing at church. And so what I'm seeing now is pastors, especially after pandemic, understanding the importance of the creative, not putting the creative in the box anymore, and giving them that resource, allowing there to be more of an investment in that department or in that side of things in the church community or in the church staff. And so we'll come alongside those teams, or that one person on that church, and we'll be that extension of the team to help support them so that they can continue to focus on that church culture and build that up. And that's, I mean, to me, that's like so valuable. I mean, you can't put a price on that. COVID affected us. COVID affected everyone, and we're still here. We're surviving. We made it through. I remember we're thriving. We are clearly, I mean, recording from our houses. Not because the world is shut down, but like Kevin said, we decentralized. We got rid of our office. I remember the day going into that office. Like he said, it was literally like The Walking Dead. Like there was nobody around. Walking to the office, cables everywhere. Had to pick up my computer and just take it to my house, and it's been at my house ever since. So, welcome to my crib. You're at my crib right now.
Oh my gosh, MTV!
Yeah, shout out MTV. We're just gonna keep this podcast running for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So, you're just gonna hear us talk.
Well, we're not going to keep this podcast running for the rest of the day because this is the end of it. So,
okay.
Thanks for listening, guys. We're so glad to be back. We're excited. We are going to keep this consistent, and nothing can stop us now. Who sings that? Bohemian Rhapsody? No.
Can't stop me now. I'm having such a good time. I'm having a ball. Don't stop me.
We're going to get copyrighted.
Yeah.
Okay, so in order to not get copyrighted, we're gonna end this. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you need anything from us, you want to ask us questions, shoot us a DM on our Instagram. We're on Instagram at Hello Yellowbox, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.